It is the definitive clash in the stratosphere, the golden opulence of a tycoon against the war technology of the most powerful nation. From one side, the private luxury taken to the extreme. From the other, a flying bunker designed to govern in full nuclear chaos. What happens when the infinite money challenges the unlimited resources of a superpower? Today, we dissect these two beasts of the air to discover who possesses the true throne of the skies. Fasten your seatbelts because this duel begins now. A 757 called Ambition, the Machine of Trump. Year 2011, Donald Trump, still a television and business figure, was looking not only for a private jet, but for a mobile declaration. His choice fell on a Boeing 757-200, a plane that, for the era, represented the pinnacle of efficiency and prestige in its category. It was not the largest, but indeed the most elegant and capable in its class, the racehorse of the skies, famous for its powerful thrust-to-weight ratio and its capacity to operate on shorter runways, allowing access to exclusive airports. Trump did not buy a new plane. He acquired a used fuselage from the already extinct low-cost airline company Delta Air, and with it, a blank canvas. What followed was a transformation that consumed years and millions. The standard interior of single-class cabin designed to transport 200 people was totally razed. In its place, a team of designers and artisans built a flying palace that reflected, without ambiguity, the Trump style. Solid leather seats were installed in substitution of the economic seats. Surfaces were clad with noble woods, and in a touch that would define the aesthetic, seatbelts and fittings plated in gold of 24 carats were added. A private presidential suite was designed with a large-sized bed and full bathroom with shower, something almost unheard of in planes of that size. A conference room, a gourmet kitchen, and an entertainment system with giant flat screens were included. Each detail from the buckles to the faucets shouted one word: exclusivity. This Boeing 757 ceased to be a plane. It converted into the Trump Force One, the maximum physical expression of a brand built upon ostentation and personal ambition. It was, and continues being, a winged extension of his own ego. The phoenix of the skies, the origin of the Air Force One. First, let us clarify a myth. Air Force One is not the name of a plane in particular. It is a call sign, a radio code that any aircraft of the Air Force of the United States uses when on board travels the president. However, in the popular imagination, that name is indissolubly linked to the two colossi that today serve the office. The Boeing 747-200B, designated officially VC-25A. The history of these giants is born from a somber lesson and from the paranoia of the Cold War. In the year 60, the presidential plane was a modified Boeing 707. The necessity of something larger with greater autonomy and above all with indestructible survival and command capacities became evident. The administration was looking for a plane that could serve as a refuge and mobile command center in case of a nuclear attack. A place from where the president could continue governing a potentially devastated nation. The chosen one was the king of the skies of the era, the recently premiered Boeing 747 jumbo jet. But these are not simple 747. They are perhaps the most modified and secret planes of the world. Their interior was designed from zero by the Air Force, the Secret Service, and the White House. More than a transport, it is a sovereign flying embassy with diplomatic immunity in the air and a strategic national command center capable of coordinating a war. It is a symbol that transcends any occupant. It represents the resilience, the power, and the continuity of the government of the United States. When it takes off, not only travels a man, travels the institution itself of the presidency. Comparison 1, the Battle of the Measures. Here is where the numbers do not lie and paint a picture of an almost comical inequality. Let us put the two titans one beside the other. The Trump Force One, the Boeing 757, is a notable plane. It measures 47 meters with 24 centimeters of length. Its wings extend 38 meters with 5 centimeters, and its tail rises up to the 13 meters with 56 centimeters. It is imposing, elegant, a large ship for private standards. Now let us observe the Air Force One. The Boeing 747 is of another category, that of the giants. Its fuselage measures 70 meters with 68 centimeters of length. The wingspan of its wings is of 59 meters with 64 centimeters, almost 20 meters more than the plane of Trump, and its height from the ground up to the tip of the vertical stabilizer is of 19 meters with 35 centimeters. For you to visualize it, the Air Force One is more than 20 meters longer, and its tail is almost 6 meters higher. You could place the plane of Trump in front of the Air Force One, and still space would be left over. In raw size, it is not a fight, it is a technological David in front of a Goliath of steel. The power also tells a similar story. The plane of Trump is driven by two formidable Rolls-Royce RB-211 engines. Together they generate a formidable thrust, sufficient for the 757 to be an agile and fast plane. But the Air Force One is propelled by four Pratt & Whitney JT9D engines, each one of them more powerful than any of the Rolls-Royce. The total thrust is overwhelmingly superior, designed not only for speed, but to take off with an enormous maximum weight full of fuel, defense systems, and personnel, even from damaged runways. In pure performance, the 757 is fast, with a cruise speed of about 980 kilometers per hour, and a respectable range of about 6,400 kilometers, sufficient to cross the Atlantic. The Air Force One, however, reaches about 1,010 kilometers per hour and has a base range of 12,500 kilometers. But here arrives the factor that redefines everything: the refueling in flight. The Air Force One is equipped with a refueling probe in full flight. This means that escorted by tankers of the Air Force, it can fly indefinitely until the fatigue of the crew is the only limit. It is a sovereign autonomy designed to maintain the president in the air safe and in control during a global crisis. In the battle of the measures and the raw power, the verdict is clear and forceful. Comparison to the technological heart. If the size is the body, the avionics is the brain and the nervous system, and here the difference is not of degree but of species. The Trump Force One was modernized in its interior, but its technological backbone is that of a commercial plane of the years 90. It uses a mixture of analog and primitive digital systems. Its avionics, although reliable, is obsolete. It does not have encrypted military communication capacities. Its navigation systems are the standard ones of civil aviation, and its electronic security is basic. It is in essence a very luxurious private jet with the technology of its era. It flies with the brain of a racehorse of 3 decades ago, noble, proven, but antiquated. The Air Force One possesses the most advanced and secret nervous system ever installed in an aircraft. It is an electronic fortress. Its communications network, known as the Vault, is a tangle of redundant and encrypted systems. It uses broadband military satellites like those of the constellation Milstar to maintain undetectable and uninterrupted links with the Pentagon, the Strategic Command Stratcom, and command centers in all the world. It can transmit and receive orders of nuclear launch, coordinate global military operations, and broadcast communiques to the nation, even if all the civil satellites and the terrestrial networks have collapsed. All its fuselage acts as a giant Faraday cage shielded against electromagnetic pulses that could fry the electronics of any other plane. Its flight systems are triply redundant and independent. It has its own system of defense against missiles capable of detecting the launch of a projectile and deploying countermeasures. In essence, the Air Force One not only flies, it thinks, governs, and survives in a scenario of total war. To compare its technology with that of the Trump Force One is like comparing a telegraph with the control center of NASA. At the end of this first look, the results are asymmetrical. In the crude metric of the size, the power, and the vanguard technology, the Air Force One emerges as an indisputable titan, a machine of state whose reason of being transcends completely the concept of luxurious transport. However, to declare a winner here would be premature. Because until now, we have only measured the muscle and the circuits. We have ignored the soul of these machines, what occurs inside their fuselages, the experience that they offer, and the most crucial, the philosophy that they represent. The true battle, the one that confronts the supreme comfort against the absolute security, the personal whim against the protocol of state, is about to begin. The duel for the sky has not ended. It has just entered into its most interesting phase. Opulence versus supreme functionality, an interior tour. To cross the threshold of the Trump Force One is to abandon the idea of a plane and enter in the penthouse suite of a flying skyscraper. The sensation is overwhelming, designed to impress from the first instant. The air smells of new leather and polish. The predominant tones are ivory, caramel, and gold, a lot of gold. The seat belts of the wide armchairs, the buckles, the knobs of the doors, and even the wash basins of the bathroom shine with the deep glint of gold of 24 carats. It is not a subtle touch, it is a declaration. Further back, a lounge opens with leather sofas arranged in front of a giant flat screen, a space for meetings or simple entertainment. The private suite, a sanctuary, counts with a queen-size bed with linens of Egyptian thread, a marble bathroom with a pressure shower, and all the amenities of a 7-star hotel. The kitchen, operated by a personal chef, is equipped to serve steaks and lobsters, not aluminum trays. Each element, from the surround sound system to the thickness of the carpets, proclaims the same message. This is a realm of extreme comfort and exhibition of personal wealth. Here, the trip is not a formality, it is an event. To traverse the door of the Air Force One is a radically different experience. There is no gold in sight. The environment is of contained seriousness, of sovereign efficiency. The palette of colors is sober, navy blues, grays, and dark woods. The space is not designed for leisure, but for the management of a nation. The distribution is meticulous. In the front part, the presidential suite offers a functional private space for sleeping and working with a full bathroom, but the heart of the plane is the Situation Room, a shielded boardroom with screens that show feeds of global news, intelligence maps, and secure communication links. It is here where the president can hold cabinet meetings or receive reports from the Pentagon in real time. Some corridors further back is located the Medical Center, a complete facility that can convert into an emergency operating room in minutes with equipment for major interventions and a reserve of blood of the type of the president. There exists a zone for the press personnel, with capacity to broadcast and extensive areas for the security team, the support personnel, and the guests. There is not a single square centimeter that does not have a specific operative purpose. This is not a palace, it is a brain and a flying bastion. Comparison 3, the fortress versus the palace. The security of the Trump Force One resembles that of any private jet of a high-profile tycoon. It might count with some level of basic shielding in the fuselage and laminated windows, but it is very far from being bulletproof. Its protection depends almost entirely on external forces, from the Secret Service that travels in it and coordinates operations on ground, from the protocols of the airports that it visits, and from the discretion of the logistics. It is a luxurious plane inside a bubble of security that others must provide. If that bubble is punctured, the plane is vulnerable. The security of the Air Force One is of another order of magnitude. This plane is not guarded, it is an autonomous fortress. Its security design is active, passive, and redundant. Its fuselage is reinforced with alloys of Kevlar and composite materials capable of resisting impacts of high-caliber weapons and even the shockwave of an explosive device. Its windows are multiple layers of polycarbonate and acrylic so thick that they distort slightly the view. All the plane is protected against electromagnetic pulses, shielded like a Faraday cage so that its systems survive the detonation of a nuclear device in the atmosphere. As for electronic warfare, it carries advanced countermeasure systems that can deploy decoys of metallic foils and heat flares to confuse missiles guided by radar or infrared. In addition, it counts with jamming systems of great power to saturate and divert the guidance systems of enemy threats. There exist reports not confirmed, but persistent, that it could be equipped with even more active self-defense systems like lasers to blind sensors, feeding the myth of its invulnerability. And then there is the luggage most critical, the codes of nuclear authorization and the systems of transmission of orders which convert the plane into an essential node of the chain of command. The security here is not a characteristic, it is the essence itself of the design. Comparison 4, the Bill of Power. Operating these machines has a price, and the figures reveal the deep gap between the private and the state. The Trump Force One has an estimated operative cost of between $8,000 and $10,000 for each hour of flight. This amount covers the aviation fuel, the salaries of the cabin and flight crew, the scheduled maintenance in private hangars, and the insurances. It is a considerable bill, but one that comes directly from the pockets of Donald Trump or from his companies. The Air Force One in exchange has an operative cost that is around $85,000 per hour. Why this abysmal difference? The fuel is only the beginning. The true cost is in everything else. The classified military technology that requires maintenance by technicians with security authorization of maximum level, the active and passive defense systems that need constant verifications and updates, the crew, which is not commercial but highly specialized personnel of the Air Force of the United States, and the colossal logistical deployment that each mission implies, which can include support cargo planes, escort combat aircraft, and reaction teams in dozens of potential airports around the world. This astronomical bill is not paid by a man, it is paid by the American taxpayers. This generates a constant political tension and of perception. Each trip in the Air Force One is scrutinized as a public expense, while a trip in the Trump Force One can be framed as a private matter. One is an instrument of government with the price of a nation, the other, a luxury good with the price of an extraordinarily wealthy individual. The presidential dilemma: which plane would he use? For a president in office, the choice between his personal jet and the Air Force One is a logistical, security, and image puzzle. Let us analyze the pros and the cons. In favor of using the Trump Force One is the flexibility without parallel. He could take off towards destinations with less notoriety, with a much lower and agile logistical profile without the immense apparatus that surrounds the presidential plane. It offers a personalized comfort and a total control over the environment, and the message being an extension of his own brand. However, the cons are overwhelming. It represents a security risk considered unacceptable for a head of state by lacking the capacities of defense, communication, and command of the Air Force One. Its use would pose grave problems of image by preferring a symbol of personal wealth over the institutional symbol of the presidency, which could be interpreted as a lack of respect to the office or a prioritization of the private over the public. In favor of the Air Force One is, above all, the absolute security and the uninterrupted capacity to govern from any place of the planet. It is the symbol par excellence of the national unity and the continuity of the state, and mobilizes the unlimited resources of the government for any contingency. Against it, it has the rigidity of its protocols, the enormous and costly deployment that each movement requires, and the almost null privacy by being essentially an office and flying fortress full of military and security personnel. For a president, the Air Force One is not an option of transport. It is a tool of government and a shield. To renounce to it voluntarily would be in practice to disarm oneself in a world of threats. Then who wins? We arrive at the moment of truth. If we grant metaphorical scores, the result is a division of realms. In the category of personalized luxury and flexibility, the indisputable winner is the Trump Force One. It is a masterpiece of opulence made to measure, a jet that redefines the private trip. However, in all the other decisive categories for a head of state, size and power, vanguard technology, absolute security, and institutional symbolism, the Air Force One wins in such an overwhelming manner that the comparison almost seems unfair. They do not compete in the same league. The conclusion, therefore, is nuanced but clear. There is not a single universal winner because these aircraft were created for radically different missions. The Trump Force One was designed to glorify a man. The Air Force One was designed to preserve an institution and, by extension, a nation. One is the culmination of the individual economic power. The other, the embodiment of the collective sovereign power. So the final question becomes philosophical, and I throw it to you. What do you value more, the dazzling opulence of a single man with all his freedom and whim, or the unstoppable, serene, and protective force of a whole nation with all its weight and its responsibilities? The answer defines not only which plane wins, but what type of power we consider supreme. This has been the duel between two legends of the skies, but the world of aviation and technology is full of epic confrontations. With which of these two planes would you travel, and why? Your opinion is the one that puts the final point to this debate.